Hey everybody, welcome back to Around the Emirates podcast with Sara Mousa, where I speak to guests from across UAE about topics you want to hear about. Today I'm joined by the incredible Qadreya Tayyib. Hi Qadreya.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
It is an absolute pleasure to have such an inspiring entrepreneur such as yourself on my show. Now, I am so excited to share Qadreya's story with everybody here today because she is founder of Bumblebee, a company which specializes in creating frozen food for babies under the ages of 6 months. That is so cool. Please tell me your story and what inspired you to create this company.
Sure. I was babysitting my friend's son one day, and I was feeding him the little supermarket packet, and it was supposed to be strawberry and blueberry. And when I put it on the spoon, it was yellow. Can you imagine? And it didn't have any taste. It didn't have anything, any color. And when I turned it around, it was produced 7 months ago. I was shocked. The food was older than the baby. And those supermarket packets, the reality is that they have a 1 year shelf life. So this was something that all of my friends were dealing with. I asked them because I don't have any kids of my own. So I was asking them about it, and they all had a difficulty finding not just fresh food, but healthy food here for their babies and for their kids. So this is when I identified a gap in the market. And, I slowly started by making food for this baby, making, some kinds of purees. And when he liked it, this is when I started to um, take it into a business.
I love it. I love the fact that you're like, you know what? I see a gap in the market. I see something that can drive positive change, something that is good for the community, good for children. I'm gonna start that business. And it's so incredible that you're also starting a business for a very specific target audience, right? Like you have to, like the babies will tell you somehow, they'll give you some form of, receptive, positive feedback if they like your food. Now, this whole situation is a very exciting journey for you. Are there any challenges that you've experienced along the way?
Definitely. I don't, being in the F&B industry, this is completely new for me. It's a dream that I've had ever since I was a little girl. I love food. I love eating food. I love cooking food, experimenting with food and learning about it. So to get to do this was a dream, but it also comes with its own set of challenges, such as being in the F&B industry, how to do how to do the budgeting, how to get, the suppliers, how to get the perfect, blend of food. Of course, my culinary background helped me, which is something, I um surprisingly enough, I didn't use in the beginning. I thought just like everybody else, oh, they're babies. It's not going to really matter what they eat. Just an apple puree is fine. But then I thought, well, then what makes me different than anybody else, right? So the challenge is to build a meal, sorry, that was not just delicious, but nutritious as well. So this is when I started to bring in, my culinary background and the um, knowledge and experience of a nutritionist to craft the perfect meal for every baby. This was, one of the challenges that I had to overcome in the beginning, developing the menu. And as I mentioned earlier, the just being in the F&B industry in general was something new, including getting the permits and, adhering to the highest safety standards, when we're cooking the food.
I like a specific point that you mentioned there about what makes you different. I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to always think about how they can have that edge. What is their USP? How are they staying ahead of the curve? And something that's, I mean, it's such a difficult and important industry. Like FMBs, your people are literally trusting you with what they're consuming, and especially children. So it's, I mean, kudos to you for being able to create a product that is not just, is sets the basic benchmarks for healthy, but nutritious and tasty, and at the same time it's the concept of taking care of the children as well is so beautiful. Like it comes from the heart to want to be able to create a product like that. And I'm curious, has there been any kind of specific milestone or anecdote that you'd like to share with me today?
Sure. A milestone is actually when I first started, it was just a very soft launch to just my friends and my family. And then, obviously just to Dubai. And then today we ship all over the UAE. We're currently in talks to, stock in supermarkets. We're available in several retailers now. So, we're looking forward to what the future has in that sense. And anecdote, actually, The funniest ones would be in my test kitchen because I test on actual kids and babies. Uh, so, the babies, the faces that they make when we're experimenting with the new flavors, with the new blends, it's always like, oh, like that in the beginning. Or sometimes when they really love it, their face would just like be like, wow, like that. And we've taken so many videos that we love of the babies. But then when they get older, which is like our 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, that's, when they can express what they feel. And oh my God, in the test kitchen, they are probably worse than Gordon Ramsay. They're so terrible. One of the things was I was making the spaghetti and meatballs for them, the very first one that I made. And as you know, our food doesn't have any salt or sugar. So they tasted it and they're like, yeah, what is this? I said, what do you mean? What is this? And then she looks at it and she said, I don't like it. It doesn't have any taste. That's because of the absence of salt, which brings me to the point, of course, that they're so used to eating salt that they don't realize it. But of course, we had to, adjust and tweak, the recipe until we got the final one, the perfect one that they like. And then when they had that one, I think it was the fifth one that we made in the kitchen. So by the time we had the fifth one, they're like, "This is good. Why you didn't make this in the beginning? Why you make me eat four bad ones? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do?"
Was not expecting that response at all. And it is extremely funny how in your industry, in your company specifically, the kids are the ones who have more leverage than the adults in that sense, and the kids can almost talk back. I love that. But you do raise an interesting point about the fact that children are so used to eating junk food, even if their parents don't give it to them, like the things that they share at school, the things that, on the weekends, for example, like kids are obviously curious in general and like to try new things all the time. So it's really important and really great that your product is kind of getting them back on that right balance of eating healthy, nutritious food. And it's important to when they're young to remind them, like the absence of salt, for example, is actually good for you, and these flavors are better off for you than these flavors. So it's really good that you are encouraging that healthy mindset. And I'm curious, what is your favorite thing about running your company?
I think, uh, well, it's always nice to meet new people. It's always nice to meet new mothers. And, some of them have those misconception about what you can and cannot feed the baby. Like, for example, I don't know about others, but at least in my circle, you don't feed the baby chicken and beef as a first food. In the first when they're 6 months, you don't really feed them chicken and beef. You just feed them like an apple, you feed them like a fruit or a vegetable. So you don't go all in and feed them, like blends and meals because they're not supposed to have it. So just telling moms that no, it's okay. In fact, we encourage it. We encourage you giving them chicken, bone broth, beef, all of those things are so delicious and nutritious, for the baby. And they provide them with protein, with iron, with the vitamins that they need. So even that was a learning curve for me. I didn't even know that, before I met with my nutritionist. So this was, one thing. But the one thing that I would say is super heartwarming for me is when it happened to me just a couple of months ago. My very, very first order, it was from Abu Dhabi, when I opened the website. And I sent it to her, and I remember her name very, very clearly because she was my first customer. She was like 001. And the other day, I saw her name again because I remember most of my customers' names. And I saw her name again, and she ordered like food for 6 months. And I said, "Wait a minute, like, what's happening here?" So I messaged her because I messaged her the first time. And I said, "Hi, dear, how are you? It's nice to see you order again. How's it going?" And she said to me that she just had her second baby and she's feeding her the same food that her sister ate in the beginning. So that was so heartwarming for me, is that not only did I gain new customers, but they're the actual siblings, it's the family. And I gained the mother's trust. So to me, that is the best thing.
That is so beautiful. And that's, you said it just yourself just now, gaining the trust and being able to, it's from what I can see from what you're saying, it's not just about, getting the profit and getting the revenue and the income. It's about gaining the people's trust, being a people person, people first, leader as well. And just knowing that you're doing something good for people, knowing that you're helping people. And the fact that this woman is trusting you with not just one, but two of her children is so beautiful. And, and it created a beautiful connection with you two along the way. And as an entrepreneur, it's not something people always think about, but it is important to consider the people factor in your operations. And this takes me to my final question for you today, Qadreya. What word of advice would you have for kind of up and coming entrepreneurs listening?
I think the one thing I would say is, as cliche as it sounds, the first advice I would give is just believe in yourself and your dream. You know, every every business, no matter how big, no matter how small, it starts with a dream, right? It starts with a person who thinks, oh, I want to put this in the market. And the more that they believe in themselves, the harder you work, the more effort you'll put into it. This is the one thing that I would say. And then the second thing I would just say, study your market, understand the dynamics, understand the market dynamics, read about it, not just in the local. If you can't find any data here locally, you could just read, regional data. You could read international data that's always available online, to understand whatever market you want. You can understand the pricing, the the budget that you're expected to put in when you want to start this business, how much profit. All of those information are available online and would help you so much down the road.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your inspiring story today, Qadreya. I've definitely learned so much from you and what it takes to start a business. And I'm grateful that I had the chance for you to share your candid story with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.